Oh, yeah. Y'all ready again? I am. This right here is no other than the Remix Morning Show. Now, Black Power Media, in case you didn't know. We got a great one here for you today. Let's bring the ladies out, man. Y'all know how we do. First of all, let's start off with Burn It Down, Kid Brown. And Jackie Lukeman. And Ricky Ryan.
Appreciate that DMV intro. Shout out to Maya, PG County's own.
Oh, really? That's where she's from?
Yes. Yep. Yes.
Let me find out. Let me still looking fine, eating all them vegetables. I see you out there, Maya. She a vegan. I see you.
She looks like, great, right?
Looking like a young 30-year-old. Ain't mad. Was that
all right.
I mean, you went there. I just had to. How y'all doing?
At least he said 30. At least he said 30.
Exactly.
Because that could have gone in another really terrible way.
Exactly. I thought about it. I did the math in my head. I was like young 30.
Yeah.
But, anyway, how y'all doing? Ricky, what's good?
What's good? How you?
I'm good. I asked you what's good.
I am a little tired. I leave out of the country this weekend, so I have to get things in order before I leave, and that's a whole lot of things. So I'm here
and then aren't you doing something else tonight?
I am. I was going to mention that later, but
you know it. She got posters and everything. I like the band two Lock Knots. Those are dope. All right.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
Nice.
And Kim Bridown, what's good?
Chilling.
You ain't been chilling. You've been doing shows and everything. Tell us what's been going on.
I do my show every Tuesday and Friday, Air Doctor, over on the Burn It Down with Kim Brown channel, 7 p.m. Y'all should tune in and subscribe.
Right.
But no, we did a little culture commentary last night on the Grammys. You know, fuck the Grammys as an institution, as a record label, as a movement. But you know, how Jay-Z up there holding his daughter's hand, accepting awards named after known domestic abusers. It riddled me that. Can somebody, and he up there trying to advocate for his black woman wife. Can you advocate for the people that Dr. Dre has beat in his life? I mean, the global impact. Are we being punny? Is that a pun? The global Dr. Dre global impact upside women's heads award. Like, what the fuck are we really doing? Grammys?
Is that like an Ike Turner award?
Ear Doctor.
Very close. That's
Ear Doctor.
almost accurate. That is woo.
Great.
Damn, man. Jackie, what about you? What you got going on? What's your show?
Well, we're back on Darker Than Blue. That tomorrow, Friday. Tomorrow is Thursday. See, I honestly do not know what the days of the week are.
I know.
Why would you know these things?
Yesterday, you were saying the Grammys was on yesterday. I was like, okay.
Yeah. Look, when it comes to time, I'm not gonna get it right. Just humor me. That's all. But yeah. So Darker Than Blue is back. Nothing happened. That just WPFW does an annual tribute to jazz where they preempt all of the shows, and all day long they just play fantastic jazz and give you jazz history. And so we'll be back this Friday. It's the pledge drive, the winter pledge drive, and we have a goal of $500 to meet for our show. So I'm going to give you the number to call and when to call the station to run us some money so we can meet our goal.
Nice.
So that's that. That is busy. A lot going on. So I'm getting more into the, trying to get back into some kind of rhythm. For the organizing. Took a little bitty walk yesterday.
Nice.
Yep.
Good.
Went to the end of the street and back. Did well. Yeah, and I can't travel yet internationally. I'm very upset. But
we need you here though.
No, not. I mean, thank you, but
Nah, I know. But yo, I'm glad you back outside. The world needs you. So yeah, please make sure y'all tune in to everybody's shows and check out everybody's movements. We all moving and shaking. Yo, so let me start off with a random ass question like I usually do. All right. So where would y'all ladies say is the most safest and best place to meet a mate? For me, I like to go to the grocery store. I feel like a grocery store, you can tell a lot about a person when you look in their cart and that. But nowadays, a lot of people use the different online dating services. Any of y'all ever? No? Yes?
Yeah, stop stalking ladies' carts in the grocery store.
I was thinking it. I wasn't gonna say nothing, but I was thinking it.
Yes.
You can tell a lot about somebody how they put their body.
Creepy ass too.
Exactly.
Yes.
In a grocery store.
What do you got there?
Weird.
Oh, she got some.
What?
She got some sausage. No.
Well, I guess if you're a vegetarian, if you're not, then you would like to know what the person puts in their body, and then you can know if you can cook or eat with them. So, what do I know? But I asked the question, y'all give me the answer.
Ladies.
I did do one of the apps once, but I never met anybody. I talked to, I think, a couple people, but never got to the meeting stage. I don't think I'm too interested in meeting someone off the app. Like I'm sorry, it's too random. It's too random.
I mean, I've done it. I'll never do it again. But
yeah, well, bad experience.
I mean, not necessarily bad. I think I came to the conclusion that for most of the men I met were only thinking about a hookup. And look, if that's what you're looking for, fine. Just be honest about it. And that's the thing that just really annoyed me, that, clearly people were like, hey, can we hook up tonight? But in their profile, it's like, oh, looking for a serious relationship. I'm tired of playing the field. And it's like, yeah, stop. This is a waste of my time, your time. And no, so yeah, I'm not doing that again. I'm not sure I know where.
So would it be,
I don't know.
Before we get to you, Ricky, would it be like organizing at the organization places and stuff like that? I mean, because they say don't work with people, don't mess with people you work with.
Don't do that. Don't join organizations to meet people.
Well, no, not join. I'm just saying that's if you're always at an organ. People usually meet people. Yeah,
it happens. That's a thing. Mm-hmm. I know that it happens.
Yeah.
Not for you, Ricky. You said no. I don't keep it. Keep it separate.
Yeah,
I get it. So I don't meet people.
Mixing up businesses, right? Like it's too much business being.
Well, not even because there's a plethora of people who I was surprised to learn are married, in fact, in my organization. So there's a way to keep it separate and outside of the organization. I just feel like that's not something that I would want to do, is, stumble across a mate in my organization. But yeah. Yeah.
Goddess Cruz says, do not run through the organization like a Tomb Raider.
Yeah. Nice. Don't do that.
Yeah, some people are known. Because I hear that all the time in spaces. Like some sisters don't feel comfortable because every time they try to get in the organization, somebody's trying to get at them, and they're like, "I'm here for the work."
Churches are like that, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, anywhere.
Let's be honest. Churches like that. There are brothers who are in church just because there's a lot of single women in church,
yes.
And
not going to church.
They just as bad. They are just as bad. So, look, there are some liberal-ish women up in the church too. So let's not act like that is not a thing too. But I don't think, I'm not at that point yet.
Okay, okay, yeah. Watch out, sisters! It's tax season. These guys is outside looking for somebody.
Tax season, ear doctor.
Is it not? Am I telling lies over here?
Hey man, homosexuality is a thing all year round, baby.
Define that for those who don't know what homosexuality is.
Going on?
That's why I said we in fact do need socialism, because if folks had housing,
Oh, it wouldn't even be a thing.
This problem.
We wouldn't even have these relationships would not exist. Majority of these relationships will not exist.
Whoa.
To everyone.
And think of how many people got caught up in a house during COVID and wound up living with somebody they ain't want to be with.
No, I'm gonna have to give you some masks, and you can go on out. Go ahead. You'd be all right.
Not the kid. All right. Let me see. Let me get to it right here. Boom. I guess we could go ahead and get to our first break. I know we got a lot of news to get to, like we do on Wednesdays. Other days I don't know. But yeah. Anyway. Let's go ahead and get to it right here. Let me see. Let me get this music together. Y'all want anything else to say before we get to the break? Yes, no, maybe so.
You're awesome, Ear Doctor. I just wanted to tell you that you always do a good job, and you look nice today. You look really nice today.
Wow.
Thank you. Wow. I'm not used to positive comments from anybody. Thank you. Appreciate you, Kim.
Don't play me like that, Ear Doctor.
Nah, you do. You always do.
Even though niggas think that I don't, but I do.
not like Ricky and Jackie who be throwing me to the wolves.
Ricky comes with the constructiveness. You gotta interpret what Ricky is.
Who is she, Bob the Builder? Fuck out of here. Constructive. Listen, anyway, we'll be right back here on the Remix Morning Show. Yeah. What's good, everybody? Welcome out once again to the Remix Morning Show. I go by the name of the Ear Doctor, and this is Black Power Media. Thank y'all for tuning in. Make sure y'all hit that like button up there, and if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button, and go to patreon.com and become a member over there and see footage that's rare. All right. All right, we celebrated Bob Marley's birthday yesterday, so big up to that. With that said, besides every good man is a good woman, so who did I want to talk about today? Let's talk about Rita Marley. Yes. Now, let me tell you about Alpha Rita. That's right, Alpha Rita Marley. She's Cuban born. She's a Jamaican singer, songwriter, and entrepreneur. She had a group with Marcia Griffiths, Judy Mowat, and this was called the I3s. They was the backing vocalist for Bob Marley and the Wailers. So, yes, she's been doing this thing for a minute. But even before she got with Bob, she had her group that got together, and it was her and her sisters. They were called the Soulettes, actually her cousins, Constantine and Marlene. And they got together and did their thing, and then did a couple tunes like Time for Everything, Turn, and then wound up getting with Bob and his crew. Now, she also worked with, they had a group, it was Bob, Peter Tosh, and that's right, Rita. They actually had a group too. They did a album, Been Down Low, man, and they also had Bunny Wailer. So when Bunny Wailer stepped off for a minute, that's when Rita came in with her singing and wound up working with Bob for a minute, and next thing you know, her and Bob got married. But Rita's still out here getting it, doing things, getting awards like the Marcus Garvey Lifetime Achievement Award, the One Order of I messed that word up, but it's another award, and the Order of Jamaica, which is looked at as a national honor there in Jamaica. So she's still alive. She was able to give beautiful things to the world, like 6 kids for Bob. So big up to her, and big up to all her albums. She got like 10 albums, so check her out, Rita Marley. And yeah, big up to that sister. Now let's get back to the Remix Morning crew. You know how we do.
Baby, I need your loving.
Yeah.
Those are some dope harmonies. I ashamedly am not familiar with Rita's catalog, and you have inspired me to go delve deeper, Ear Doctor. Thank you.
Yeah. We always talk about Bob. We gotta get some love to Rita. Rita put out 10 albums, did the backing vocals, and worked with Peter Tosh, Bunny Wailer, all of them, all the massive big heads. So yeah, big up to that sister.
I just know I'm familiar with the background group. I'm not too familiar with her solo music, but yeah. Because Zion Train, just the background lyrics, that's my son's name, comes from Zion Train.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
Yeah, not Lauryn Hill.
I thought you got that from Lauryn Hill. I was about to say.
No,
okay.
Not Lauryn Hill.
Clear that up. Straighten that out.
All right, cool. Well, I'll let y'all go ahead and rock out. Y'all have a great one. I'll see y'all next break. Peace.
Nice.
Ear Doctor, is he with us all show? Are you with us all show, Ear Doctor, or you got to bounce?
I feel so. There's no button up today.
Yes,
so
ma'am. I am here.
Yeah. Wonderful.
All right.
You. It's going to be a good day, ladies. Shall we beat up that map? Shall we Dr. Dre the map, everybody?
Oh, boy.
Or kill him.
It's going to be one of the days, everybody. So, good morning, Remixers. Thank you guys for being here. It's the Remix Morning Show, the Wednesday edition, the Wednesday Women's edition, the Miércoles Mejores edition. Is that correct? My Spanish speakers?
Sí.
Oh, it was. Set up now. We appreciate y'all joining us. Look at us. It's the gals in the house. We got Ricky Ryan. We got Jacqueline Lukemon. And my name is Kim Brown. Ear Doctors in the back, pushing the buttons, making us sound and look good. And remixers, y'all in here already looking good and stunting. So please make the video look good. Boost them likes. Subscribe to the channel. Support the channel. Become a member. Join us on patreon.com/Black Power Media. We certainly appreciate it. So we got some news to get into. I know y'all got some news. Y'all the actual news hounds.
I have a story in the chat. Folks want to know what's going on with Senegal. Well, I am not a fan of France 24, but it is one of the only English translations of what's going on. So Senegal MPs clash during debate on election delay after police dispersed the car protests. So what has happened, what's currently happening in Senegal is there's an uprising because the current leader is staging a constitutional coup. And we can think about a constitutional coup in terms of what happened in Haiti in 2021, where Jovenel Moïse refused to step down, even though his time was up. So Macky Sall is the current leader of Senegal, and he is refusing to step down. He suspended the elections to push it back, to delay the elections. Opposition leaders have been arrested, so they are in prison. And also the government on Monday suspended the internet access, citing dissemination of hateful and subversive messaging on social media. So the opposition or anyone attempting to get this news out has been repressed and silenced by the government. The article also makes mention that it was a repeat move of something that occurred last year in June, where they saw mobile restrictions of opposition leadership and people who were in obvious opposition of Macky Sall. So also, in addition to that, television channels have been shut down. The internet is down. 3 candidates are under arrest. Over 100 people have been killed and 1,500 political prisoners since the constitutional coup process began. And foreign powers and African bodies like ECOWAS are not getting themselves involved. They are instead taking meetings with Blinken and, setting up new military bases in Ghana. But this is something that we've seen occur in 2021. And if folks remember, in March of 2021, people took to the streets for the very same reason against Macky Sall. He had at that point also arrested opposition leaders. So there was tens of thousands of people in the street. Supermarkets and gas stations were being targeted and burnt down. And I think it's very easy for us to look at the situation and on the surface say this is a people who want Macky Sall out, right? But I think we need to put that in context of who Macky Sall is and why. So Senegal, like a lot of the Francophone nations in Africa, with the exception of Guinea Conakry, have never they have a flag independence. They were given independence by France. They did not have to have any particular armed struggle for their independence. So that context makes it a bit different, because then we can then see why there's so much control over France and why there's an opposition in those nations to France directly, because it's something called the colonial mandates, or the colonial accords, excuse me, or the Franc-Afrique, La Franc-Afrique, and it is the French neocolonial system in Africa, and it's what you would think of the Monroe Doctrine, the U.S. Monroe Doctrine for the Americas. It's what that sort of colonial mandate or colonial accord suggests. So they don't have they intervene in African politics to establish governments favorable to French economy, which is at Macky Sall. He is a puppet leadership of the French directly. When he came into power, he came in after a sort of nationalist leadership who had removed France military. Macky Sall came in and restored the French military. They are beholden to the French economy. When I talked about the supermarkets and the gas stations being targeted, because they are French supermarkets and French gas stations. They are not African owned or any of that. So the opposition, like we've seen in a lot of the Sahel and a lot of the Francophone nations, the opposition is not so much to the neocolonial leadership, but to France. Mm-hmm. And understand the clarity and understanding that. So that's what's developing now. And I think we need to pay attention to that, because that's something that's developing there, but also there's things brewing in Chad. There was an attempted coup in Sierra Leone. So Africa is on the move. And I my frustration is always that people dip in and out of engaging African politics, which is how we get beholden to China's is colonizing Africa, or, Russia's imperializing, Russia's imperialist, because there's no real engagement of what's happening in these nations as individual nations, and then as nations that are flag independent, have flag independence, that did not have to have a particular revolution or struggle behind how they were able to attempt independence, because the West seen what Mozambique was able to do, what Guinea-Bissau was able to do, what Guinea Conakry was able to do, and they said, you know what? Here you go. We'll negotiate your independence. We don't want any more of that. And what we see occurring today, these uprisings, these pushbacks, these anti-France sentiments that are also not singularly anti-France, but anti-West in general, is a result of that, the lack of that struggle having occurred then, and what that has resulted in this sort of neocolonial capture and comprador class capture of Africa.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought this sounded familiar when I was like, wait, didn't this happen before? Mm-hmm. And that, I think, just speaks to how deeply involved and deeply aware people on the continent are about their condition, and at least who is immediately responsible for it, even though some are not quite yet at the point of struggling against neocolonialism itself and imperialism itself. But it's clear that they understand that not just France, as you said, Ricky, but the West is their problem, which is why so many of these African nations don't have a problem as much with the Chinese government or the Russian government, even though there may be some issues with some private business owners, from those countries in some contexts. But, definitely we can't look at these movements by the people to get rid of their comprador leaders that are backed by the West as a coup in the sense of what the US and the West does, right? So it's really important that we parse those things out and that we're explaining to people not just that this is happening, but why and how it's happening. So that we don't, like you said, get confused about, oh, there was an unlawful coup in a place like Guinea-Bissau or Mali or Niger or something like that. We have to be a lot more detailed and, I hate to say it, nuanced about these conversations.
Yeah, but it's important, Jackie and Ricky, that you guys bring these stories about Africa, because unfortunately, a lot of us, maybe let me just say me, let me speak for myself out here. Let me not, it's difficult to engage with Africa politically, not hard, but in the sense that it's a giant continent. Everything is that what's happening on the Horn of Africa is not what's happening in West Africa, is not what's happening in North, not what's happening in South, and it's trying to decouple and unlearn my own colonial lens of Africa as this giant continent, this place that I can't penetrate with my mind because it's so diverse. But I think telling us these stories and making sure that BPM viewers are at least aware that these changes are occurring on the continent, that the people there are deeply politically engaged and pushing the colonizers out of some of these West African countries. So this is encouraging. But I mean, in terms of, what's the gentleman's name? Who's the president?
Macky Sall.
Macky Sall.
My bad, Mackie. I mean, what is the likelihood that he is going to be able to retain? Because if I'm understanding what you guys are saying, he was able to resist a similar effort, so not that long ago. So he just gonna hold tight.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's determined on it's an internal struggle. So it's determined on the masses of the people there. And then, like I noted, ECOWAS is pretty quiet about the conditions, just like ECOWAS is pretty quiet about what's happening in Guinea-Bissau as well. And I say that to say, when we look at how ECOWAS has dealt with Niger, for instance, and that military coup, and the amount of sanctions that were waged on Niger, and then you look at Gabon, that also had a military coup, right? Gabon did not receive that same sort of heavy-handedness. And then you see this constitutional coup happening in Senegal, and ECOWAS is pretty quiet. And that's to say there's a through line. Even when you talked about what's happening in this part of Africa isn't happening, but there is a primary contradiction, which is that of imperialism, and then neocolonialism being the highest, the highest stage of it, is what we're seeing occurring. And with Africa being primarily youth, right? Majority youth in Africa at this moment, across Africa, we are seeing those contradictions sharpen because they have lived through this. This is all they've ever known. They grew up in these conditions. So for them, there is another option, or they're pushing for another option. So that is where the internal struggles are existing, and we're seeing that play out in different ways or manifesting in different ways. But I think what's necessary to understand that the masses of the people would dictate what occurs, right? But even in that instance, Macky Sall is a neocolonial puppet, right? So he is supported by the West. So these conditions, it's important that we just keep an eye on it, support the on the ground grassroots movement, actually learn the history of Senegal, because it really is a rich and deep history of these sort of nationalist neocolonial tensions. And we're now at a point where we're seeing this real awakening of an anti-imperialist politic amongst the masses. Not so much just a nationalist understanding of get France out, but a critical understanding of the role of France in their material conditions, in their material lives. So we're seeing that uptick, because if it happened in 2021 and it's happening again, it's to say that there's a sustained movement against what's happening that's only just going to keep building.
Let's hope so.
Get it. Who wants to go next with the next story? I have some stories coming, but I don't have them in the email yet, so my apologies. So Jackie, if you have something that you want to go to, feel free.
So let's see. Let me start with this one. South Africa is about to file a legal action with the ICJ against, guess who, the UK and the US for war crime complicity. A team of almost 50 South African lawyers is preparing a legal case to bring to the International Court of Justice, the United Nations top court, against the US and the UK for their complicity in Israel's array of war crimes in Gaza and the occupied West Bank. South Africa's successful ICJ case against Israel last month led to Israel being put formally on trial for genocide and resulted in a string of binding orders on Israel to stop its slaughter of Gazans and even to protect Palestinians from harm, as well as to ensure adequate aid reaches the Strip's 2.5 million people, many of whom are now starving and homeless, which is exactly what Israel intended to do. Israel has flouted the rulings, continuing and even intensifying the mass murder and blockade, and is being supported in its flagrant disregard for international law by the UK and the US, who are providing both material and financial aid, excuse me, and giving political cover by refusing to condemn Israel's actions or to call its crimes what they are, instead casting doubt on the mass deaths and brutality and denigrating the court's union. So let's see. South Africa joins Nicaragua, and that's the other story I was going to share about this. In taking action against the UK and the US, the Central American nation has also filed a case against Germany, Canada, and the Netherlands. And let's go there.
Collect them all.
Yep. So yes, Nicaragua also is going to bring an ICJ case versus the UK, Germany. Whoops, what is that in L?
The Netherlands.
Thank you. Canada for complicity in Gaza genocide. Yeah, I don't know where things are either. The Nicaraguan government initiated proceedings at the ICJ yesterday against the UK, Netherlands, Germany, and Canada for complicity in Israel's genocide in Gaza, providing the Israeli occupation with weapons and support used in the killing of Palestinians. A statement by the Nicaraguan government notes that it had warned these states of their likely complicity in flagrant and systematic violations of the Genocide Convention, urging them to immediately stop providing Israel with weapons and tech that were likely to be used in violation of the convention, and that the ICJ's ruling against Israel last month had put a duty on all countries to stop supplying Israel with the means to conduct its slaughter of Palestinians in Gaza. All right, so this... I think what's going to happen with these lawsuits is the same thing that has happened with the ICJ ruling, is that Israel, the US, and the UK are not going to care. They're going to keep on. The US and the UK are going to keep on funding and sending arms to Israel. Israel's going to keep on slaughtering people. But what I do think we see happening with these countries filing cases against, the mighty UK and the mighty US, is that so many of these countries that have been bullied by the US and UK imperialism through all kinds of means, sanctions, coups, actual undemocratic coups, military actions carried out against these countries by the US and the UK because they refuse to abide by a neoliberal ideology and policies that would harm their people. What's happening, I think, is that we're seeing these countries not being afraid of the US and the UK and their responses anymore. And we're also seeing the facade being lifted off of this idea of international rules-based order and international law. Obviously, there is no such thing, because if a nation can get away with continuing to carry on a genocide after the so-called highest court in the United Nations, which hasn't done anything to stop Israel from carrying out a genocide, if any way they rule even preliminarily before the trial has actually happened, does not stop Israel and the US and the UK from committing genocide, then people should be very clear. The idea of international law, a rules-based order, and the inherent morality and greatness of these countries, these Western nations, the UK and the US and their allies, non-existent. Absolutely, these countries and these countries' leaders, every single one of them, have always been white supremacist, settler, colonial genocidaires. That's the only way you support a genocide, is you are a genocidaire yourself. So I don't expect anything earth-shattering to come from these cases. I do think the ICJ might just surprise us again and rule in favor of charges being brought against these countries, and a case going forward could happen. But it's going to take more than the ICJ to stop this genocide. And the thing is, I don't know what that is.
Yeah. I mean, but to your point, like, I'm curious because, as you said, it's not likely that this lawsuit or these lawsuits will force any of these imperialist powers to stop doing what they're doing. I feel as though there is a benefit, though, to getting this on the legal record, even though it may not be adhered to, or there may not be any real consequence or might behind a ruling against the US, Canada, UK, etc. But what I feel like there's a benefit, but I just don't know what it is. Ricky, what's the benefit to it?
I mean, it is a benefit. I mean, that's the only benefit to it. That's the only political use of it, is having it and being able to figure out how to disseminate it. Because even naming Nicaragua, currently Marco Rubio and Tim Kaine are aligned in issuing more sanctions against Nicaragua, against human rights violations, right? And it's at a time where the U.S. is actively engaging in genocide, but they are very concerned with the human rights of a nation that's 90%, food sovereign. Everyone has their full rights, people-centered human rights. It's the same thing as why we would launch a Zone of Peace campaign last year, the BAP Haiti Americas team, with other key partner organizations in the region, because, CELAC has already done that. CELAC is an institution. It's the Caribbean and Latin American states. They've done that in, I believe, 2014. So it has gone on for all these years, and there has been no Zone of Peace, but that is an institution. What we argue is that we need these actual movements to make that work, right? So if they're calling for this Zone of Peace, then what does that look like to call for a Zone of Peace? How do we implement a Zone of Peace? How do we actually make sure that happens? And that's a bottom up, not a top down. And I think that that's the use for these sort of these documents and these rulings that are coming out from the ICJ, is being able to organize a people around, what does this mean? How can we use this? And then ultimately for Africans, what does this mean for the African, right? Because if we're seeing that these things align for genocide, primarily NYPD has a station in Tel Aviv. We know the Deadly Exchange program exists across the country. George Floyd, the tactic of the knee or the neck, is something that they are trained to do by the IOF. The implementing right now that's happening on the border that Biden is trying to push, border security is trained by the IOF. So if we are saying that they're committing genocide in one instance, how does the U.S. then allow for this sort of training, or this tactical training, to still continue? So it becomes a matter of, how do we use this? If policing is your fundamental, what your organization is focused on, then how do you use what the ICJ or what Nicaragua or what South Africa is doing to then push for what you need in your own community, or to waken people up and about what's happening in your own community?
And just like Israel has lost the narrative once the ICJ preliminary ruling came out, because then that's how people responded. And now you're seeing all of these stories come out about the dissent in the newsrooms around the world, with how they were, this is a huge thing out of that. The Guardian reported about the dissent in the CNN newsroom, and these people have been at war with their own editors' offices, editors' desks since October 7th. Basically saying, wait a minute, there's too much. There's clearly, we're being forced to report a pro-Israel narrative when the facts that we're seeing don't line up with that. And, of course, we know about that. But the other great thing, just like with this ruling, is that just like Israel lost the narrative that they're the victims, that Hamas is an evil terrorist organization that wants to kill all everyone in Israel and all this kind of garbage. This also does poke a hole, if not creates a huge dent into the narrative and the reputation of the UK and the US now. However, how this case goes in the ICJ, if they rule against the US and the UK and these other countries, now these other countries are going to have to defend themselves on the world stage. Well, geez, US and UK, the ICJ just found that you were complicity in genocide too. So what moral standing do you have to tell Nicaragua or Cuba or any other country what to do? Shut up and go mind your own business,
Right.
So that's the other utility of this ruling. But unfortunately, and I will always admit when I don't have all the answers, and I hope that somebody does, like, outside of a full-on regional war, how is Israel stopped? That's like my real world, answer. If we know that Israel has not responded to the ICJ preliminary ruling, they're not going to, the US isn't going to, the UK isn't going to, how does this genocide stop?
Right. But again, I don't think that I think that there's maybe, even in the narrative or things that I've been seeing people discuss around the uselessness of the ICJ, or even the ruling, I think there's the resistance is not dependent on that. And
Right.
We've seen that because Israel hasn't stopped and neither has the resistance. They're still moving. They're still doing what they have to do. There's an objective that they have, irrespective to what's happening in these courts. Now, They are also saying things that are very similar to the ruling, because Hamas has released its own statements, and they are also paying very much, close attention to the direction of these rulings, because they're using them as well. Hamas has their own counter propaganda. So, and then, the resistance does as well. So I think it needs to really be understood that the resistance is the key to what is going to happen. But in terms of how we chip away at it from here, if we know that the US is funding Israel primarily, like Israel has no leg to stand on without the West, right? And so then what is our role then? How do we move beyond just the call for a ceasefire, but make something actually materially happen? How do we stop these weapons from getting shipped? How do we, wake up the masses around these issues? And then I see in the chat someone said, or I guess they asked about BRICS or BRICS' role. And I think it's really important that we understand the limitations of, how much does BRICS play? I don't think that's the case. So even with the understanding of BRICS, I think there's also a misunderstanding of BRICS as an institutional, right? It's not ideologically aligned. And I don't think it necessarily needs to be. I think what is cohesive is that they want to move away from the global system of U.S. hegemony, and that is where BRICS has its ultimate power, so to speak. But it's obvious that there's a bunch of different factors that are complicit in what's happening in Gaza. We have Saudi Arabia, the UAE is now there, Egypt is in there now, India, right? So we see that, but Iran is in there and South Africa is in there. So there is a tussle that is going on geopolitically around what's happening in Gaza, obviously, but the use of BRICS is not for that or to resolve that. The use of BRICS is about removing oneself from a particular global system so that your own nations can thrive and have some sort of self-determination and sovereignty outside of that sort of global system. But I think that when we look at how Iran has made itself a key partner to the resistance, not just what's happening there, but then we see them speaking with the Sahel. We see Iran in speaking with Nicaragua. We see Cuba just had a meeting. They, the leadership and government in Cuba was just in Iran. So see that in those instances, those are the connections that are being made where there's a utility and a usefulness, but that's not what BRICS is for.
That would be so interesting because BRICS is an economic collective, right? Imagine if they were a military collective. Imagine if Russia is training with Iran in South Africa. America would be shitting BRICS.
I mean, I heard when he said Cuba just had a meeting with Iran, and just my little socialist heart just jumped. Oh,
start fluttering.
But it is that non-aligned nature of BRICS, even though it's not, a military formation. And while we can hope and pray, let's not impose our, because I want them to have a military because I like revenge. So I mean,
and Russia's doing it.
Right. Yeah. And China, obviously. So, but Israel doesn't. Right. Yeah. Israel doesn't strike me as the kind of nation that wants to be involved in all of those non-aligned governments that are, and I'm glad you brought up the point of Iran. I know that Iran is not a socialist country.
Right. And I don't think I even implied that it was.
No.
Yeah.
No, when I said my socialist heart because of Cuba. Lord have mercy. But yeah, I don't think that Israel would want to be a part of BRICS with Iran supporting the resistance in Palestine and positioning itself to support the resistance in a partner in the protection of socialist countries like Cuba and Nicaragua and others. Yeah, Israel doesn't want to be a part of that because the U.S. wouldn't let them.
Yeah, I was going to say also Israel doesn't want to be a part of, they don't want to detach from the global system either. It benefits them. So, yeah.
Yep. So this, I mean, every day, and I'll be honest, every day I do wake up and I think, man, when is this going to end? When is somebody going to stop Israel? That really is, like, I wake up and I hear this is just one more day. What is this, day 112 or some shit like that? It's just one more day where they've killed hundreds of people, murdered hundreds of people. And aside from kind of trying to ignore the lack of concern that people have in this country about a genocide that they really get to see going on right now, it is, of course, like, how many more people have to die before? I know that the US is not going to do anything. I know that the UK isn't going to do anything. In my own humanity, I guess, I just feel for the fact that every day thousands of people are going to be murdered by this state. Yeah. And this is just, it's hard to deal with.
Did you see the pictures of the airport in I believe it was Tel Aviv? It was, people can't get out. The airport is so packed of people trying to leave Israel that they cannot fly out. So I say that to say they're doing what they have to do. The resistance, Hezbollah got the North covered. So Yemen is still doing. So I'm, to that extent, I'm not that pessimistic about Israel because it is falling. It is losing footing propaganda wise, and then it's losing footing on the ground. And it's only so much. The only reason why it's sustaining itself is because of the West.
Yeah,
and that's why I point out, like, there is a role that we have specifically here to to push back against the normalizers that are creeping into these spaces, because there's no two-state solution. That's never happening. There's no kumbaya
Netanyahu said he said it won't happen anyway, right?
Exactly. He doesn't. That's not gonna. And the U.S. has always known that. And I don't understand. Well, I do. Let me stop saying I don't understand. I do understand how people in this country, just were really okay with this because, first of all, Americans are not very well educated on anything that goes on outside of this country, and a lot of what goes on in this country. So there's that. But there's also the fact that this country is a settler colonial project itself. So people are like, yeah, settler colonialism, it's great. Look at what it did here. Not giving a damn about the entire tribes of people, millions of people just slaughtered, and the hundreds of thousands of people brought here, forced to come here to develop this stolen nation. So, it's not unusual to, I don't look at people in this country and like, oh, how could they not care? Of course they don't care. They don't want to talk about how this country is like created the example for the Nazis and for Israel. How fucked up is that?
Right.
The bill, did that spending bill pass, that standalone bill to
the
fund
18
I don't know what it was called.
But, was it 18 million?
Billion. But it was like 60 billion for Ukraine, maybe another 14 billion.
Oh, Ukraine's still getting money. That's nice.
Oh, Ukraine getting money.
So nice that nobody forgot about Ukraine on the Hill with our money.
Right. No. But how can Israel stop the genocide when they got all this money to spend on bombs? You know what I mean?
That's true.
Which makes the ruling or the case being brought up, it brings those questions forward. That is because the ruling suggests that Israel has to stop and do all it can to alleviate genocide. And how can they do that if the U.S. is now proposing more funding? So these contradictions just continue, I guess, to sharpen. But ultimately, I think what we are, like Jackie noted, is this sort of moving away from the West, or people being very clear about the US, EU, NATO axis of domination that's existing throughout the world and its impact. So not just BRICS, but the Belt and Road initiatives and the Shanghai cooperation. I think somebody mentioned that in the chat. There's all of these different unions, CELAC. I mean, we can have our criticisms of them, but they exist because there are formations and states and nations that want to move away from a particular global system. And then that creates a space for the masses to then implement or push for a different way.
Absolutely. And I think that funding bill actually did not pass because, believe it or not, the Republicans are like, no more money to Ukraine. And I'm like,
really?
Wow.
Was it connected to that border bill, or I thought they are trying to separate all that somehow? I don't know.
They're still fighting over that, but
Lord,
they're gonna get their money. I don't care how they do it. They're gonna get their money. Us, on the other hand, no, we're not getting anything. Who is lurking in the background there? Speaking of not getting anything.
I hope the battery for that smoke alarm. You had me in here looking all around. I kept hearing chirp, and then when Ear Doctor went away, I did not hear the chirp. So I deduced that it was you with the chirpies, Tepka.
That was a nice transition there, Jackie. But, you know, it's talking about bombs. I bomb atomically.
Hey, Socrates, philosophies and hypotheses. Dr. Fano, I'll be dropping these mockeries, lyrically perform all robberies.
All right. Big up to Infinite Content sending $5 in. Jackie, did you see that the ICJ filed a claim against the UK and other countries the other day? That's a big word right there. Asymmetrical lawfare by the Global South.
I thought you was geometry out here. You ain't
recognizing that's not geometry.
Wow.
That's literature.
That's literature. That's literature.
Infinite Content sending in $2. What is that? Niagara?
No, oh my Jesus.
Nicaragua.
No.
Nicaragua filed the claim. My typing sucks and my spelling does. So big up Infinite Content for sending that in right there. Appreciate you. All right, so I guess we go ahead and take a quick break.
That was almost an absolute disaster.
You're not trolling me.
What?
I'm not even responding.
What happened?
Asymmetrical is literature. Like, he's playing. He's really playing.
All right. Let's get to our.
But he's not playing, Ricky.
Let's get to let's get to our literary break right here, right now on the Remix Morning Show. Let's go.
Nicaragua.
Where they make nicotine.
Oh no.
Oh, I can't stop. Yeah. We can't stop. You know I can't. Right here on the Remix Morning Show. I'll go by the name of the Ear Doctor. Make sure y'all hit that like button. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. Go to patreon.com. Become a member over there. Get footage that's rare. And share. Because that means you care. All right. With that said, we're going to get into another artist spotlight. What artist am I going to spotlight right now? You hear it in the back. Let's talk about After 7. Bruh, you could have put a shirt on. All right, let's talk about him anyway. You know what I mean? All right, After 7, coming straight out of Indiana. That's right, like a fake Jackson 5. Anyway, they was founded in 1987. And they actually are, the two of the members are the older brothers of Babyface. So, boom, Babyface helped them get the deal and everything. And they signed with Virgin Records. And then they released a platinum selling album in 1989, which had songs like The Heat of the Moment and Ready or Not and Can't Stop. Those three songs was killing it. You know what I'm saying? It was on the top 10 everywhere. They got their platinum album. And their second album, Taking My Time, released, and it also went platinum, which was wild. It had songs like Baby, I'm For Real, Natural High. And then they came out with another album called Reflections, which was their last album before they did the whole breakup. You know how they do. And then it included the song Till You Do Me Right. I don't really know about that song. I wasn't rocking R&B that strong because hip-hop was dominant. All right, but anyway, so after that, you know, they pretty much did their thing. And the group broke up as usual. Then they took over for some of the sons, started joining the group and everything, which was dope. But the dope thing about their first album is it put them on tour with MC Hammer. You know what I'm saying? And with MC Hammer, that got them a Image Award, an NAACP Image Award. And then they also did a song on the 5 Heartbeats movie soundtrack, Nights Like This. Y'all ain't know that. The same year, they got on the road with Whitney Houston on her I'm Your Baby Tonight world tour. So they've been all around. So they got out and about and did their thing. But later on, like I said, the group broke up. Melvin Edmonds, he died at 65. And then Jason left the group shortly after there, and Danny. And, you know, they released their 5th album, Unfinished Business, in 2021. So, listen, they got like 5 albums, so go check them out. That's After 7, y'all. Now, let's get back after these sisters right here on the Remix Morning Show. Let's go. I give you the sun, the moon, the rain, and all. What is he, God?
Wait,
before you start doing the corrections, Ricky, let's finish our
No,
singing.
you was hating so hard. You was
was
hating.
what?
You was hating.
How you figure?
That was not no praiseworthy After 7 special. Like
Platinum, they first
shady.
album.
You was being shady.
Really?
Like
y'all agree with this?
The Jackson 5 comments?
You said,
sir.
You being shady. And I ain't like it.
To her point,
I didn't appreciate it.
That was a little shady starting off. But he picked it back up. I think he...
Kim.
Dear Doctor. After 7 had jams. Thank you so much
for
reminding me. That can't stop. I'm like, how and then nights like this. And wait, what was the other one you said? You said Ready or Not, Can't Stop, Baby I'm For Real. Baby I'm For Real was a killer too. That joint was a monster. Whatever it was you said, Ear Doctor. Yeah, it was, Ear Doctor.
They was on the Soul Food soundtrack.
Ready or Not. I said, what was it? Ready or Not. You had Can't Stop and Heat of the Moment. That was my shit right there. I ain't gonna front. Heat of the Moment was the shit. They
were the second group I seen at the Apollo. I seen them. My cousin used to work at the Apollo, so I seen them the same night as Patra. It was Patra After 7 in one show.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I have After 7 performing at Showtime on the Apollo, recorded on a VHS tape somewhere. I used to record them Showtime at the Apollos because all the performers used to come out and kill it, yo. Yo, that's crazy.
Yo, that was the great thing about the 80s and the 90s. You had so many different groups performing together because, you know, like MC Hammer and After 7 going on tour. Like, really?
It worked.
It worked.
But I don't remember those guys being that bright. I'm sorry.
Oh, the lead singer was...
Yeah, they was like
they look like Ear Doctor cousin.
My cousin loved the ponytail one.
Lead singer look just like Ear Doctor uncle.
Why Kim lighter than me always? That's deflecting. That's what that is right there.
This ain't about
projection.
Projection. Oh yeah, there you go. I'll be getting them words mixed up all the time.
I know you do. Reflection. I know you. Wheel up reflector.
All right. Well, yo, that is your artist spotlight for the day. I said catch you on the next break. Thank you very much.
That was good. Well, Ricky gives a thumbs down, but
yeah, he could have praised them a little better than that.
Yeah, I didn't understand that whole Jackson 5. Like, what?
Why he did them like that? I was in the back a little heated. I was excited, like, yeah, I'm like, damn.
Because they was big men. It's not like they was kids when they came out of Indiana, right? They was big men. This is Babyface's older brothers, right? It's big brothers. Yeah. Indeed. Remixers, thank y'all for being here. I'm not in the chat. I don't have no idea how many people's in here, but I know that all of y'all have not given the video a thumbs up. Ricky hit us to the science that all y'all don't come in here and like us. Some of y'all be sitting on your thumbs like some dickheads. But listen, like the video. Stop being some haters. Thank you. Subscribe to the channel. We out here cold kicking ass. The channel is rolling steadily towards 40K if we're not already there.
Nice.
So help us get there.
Oh, wow.
Spread the word. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Also, do not forget to tune in to WPFW.org for Darker Than Blue, Fridays, 5 p.m. Jackie Lukeman, Sean Blackmon, speaking all the Blackmon news out here. So please tune in, WPFW.org. And Jackie, PFW takes Cash App. So tell the people when they Cash App support during the Darker Than Blue show to put in the notes, this is for Jackie and Sean. This is for Darker Than Blue. So yeah, do that. Support non-com, especially member driven and deeply politically engaged, that also plays amazing music radio across the country. Please and thank you.
Yep. Thanks so much for that. We're actually having a Jamu Baraka this Friday.
Hey, turn up. Oh, don't
so we can get the African straight.
So I was so deeply engaged in Ear Doctor's After 7 thing, I forgot to get my stories together. So
here it is. No, is it in the chat or is that Rick?
I have the next one. Yeah, if you want to get to that, and then
Ricky keeps a full clip out here.
All right, yeah. Wait. Oh, where did it go? Okay, got it.
Darker than blue.
Here you go, ma'am.
All right. So the Uhuru 3, the motion to dismiss the Russian influence charges were rejected by the U.S. judge. Thank you, Jackie. So in Tampa, Florida, it says that, and this is on MSN.com. It says a motion to dismiss the Russian influence charges against the co-founder and chairman of the African People's Socialist Party, APSP, and two of his top allies has been denied, with the trial date expected to come soon. If you could scroll down. So the U.S. is that magistrate judge Anthony Porcelli, I think, filed an order on January 26th recommending that the district judge William Jung deny a motion to dismiss charges against the APSP chairman Omali Yeshitela, along with Penny Hess and Jesse Newell, two white solidarity organizers with the associated Uhuru movement. So we know that on July 29, 2022, the FBI, with the cooperation of local law enforcement, violently raided 7 properties of the APSP and the Uhuru movement in St. Louis, Missouri, and St. Petersburg, Florida. It wasn't until 9 months later that the U.S. Department of Justice announced indictments in the case targeting Yeshitela, Hess, and Neville. The Uhuru 3 were accused of working as agents of the Russian government in a multi-year foreign malign influence campaign in the United States, seeking to influence domestic elections. Charges they have flatly denied. So I could stop there, because I don't think this is talked about enough, especially since the actual trial date, the next court date is setting up for the trial at the end of the year. This is serious. However one feels about Uhuru, however one feels about Omali Yeshitela, I think that Dr. CBS's book is so important in this moment, because we're seeing certain things unfold that will have there's certainly going to be a backlash for all of us who are organizing, especially all of us who are doing international organizing, who are in solidarity with Cuba, even who are in solidarity with what's happening in Palestine, because they are using, and this is beyond Red Scare, this is actual McCarthyism, right? When there's charges and there's a federal probe involved, that is McCarthyism. But what they are saying is that organizations or organizers and movements have no right to speak to other nations. Essentially, they have criminalized that. So any internationalism that, or the anti-war movement is even, they're at risk in a sense. And I know we're seeing what's happening in Atlanta, especially recently with the bail fund. I think that was yesterday that it happened, or the day before. And so there's been a lot of conversations around the Red Scare. But I do think it's critical that we pay attention to this actual ongoing case and trial and the implications that it's going to have for us all. Especially since it's not really discussed. And there's particular reasons why it is and isn't discussed. But I think that there needs to be a focus on what is being actually said in the case, what the actual charges are, and the actual implications for organizers who do internationalist work, and just who say things. Because Yeshitela was on Voices with Vision, and he was yesterday, and he had remarked that even in the trial itself, or the court case, when they were trying to get this dismissed, what the feds are alluding to is that they didn't really have to necessarily have done anything, and they didn't necessarily have to have said anything. It is just the optics of it. So they're not even concerned about what exactly was said. especially since this is someone who has been organizing for decades. So he's never not said the same thing, called for the genocide, spoke out about the genocide of African people, spoke about the U.S. And, deals with African people around the world, and in the U.S. He's always been consistent in terms of what the language has been. So when the question now becomes, well, what exactly was said that is Russian influence, then, the feds are saying, well, that's not our concern. Our concern is that we believe you're being told to say these things. Whatever you say, we don't care what's being said. We just believe that you're being told to say these things. So that's really what the case is. So that also speaks to sort of paternalism around how African people are even, understood, right? One could not really understand our own conditions and, see the contradictions for ourselves. We have to be told by some outside influence. And I think that that's where CBS's book is really important in that way, because she speaks to that sort of otherism and the foreigner and how the outside influencer and how these things manifest into actual McCarthyism, to actual the un-American trials and things that people lose their livelihoods and their Yoshiteli is not young. And they're facing 15 years behind this. So again, there's some serious implications for the organizing work that many of us engage in. Least of all, just saying, we care about African people, and the U.S. is complicit in the death of African people in the U.S. That is something that can get us easily caught up. So I think I wanted to raise that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you did, because these kind of things happen, and they space them out, so that we almost forget that this was done, right? That there's so much has happened, and this was not in the news for a while, and I think we kind of forget that the state is still targeting organizers, activists, and with a particular focus on African liberation organizers and activists. And for us not to understand that this is yet another example of how this country is not a democracy. Free speech has never existed in this country. Not, this is something that if we're not careful, and if we don't pay attention to it, when this trial comes up, and if we don't make a lot of noise in support of those who are charged, then it'll be us. It'll be the rest of us. That's because they've been working on that. I mean, since before the anti-Semitism charges against protesters now, and with Nancy Pelosi telling folks at her house, go back to China where you came from, and all this kind of garbage, and with her calling for the FBI to investigate pro-Palestinian people who want a genocide to be stopped against Palestine. Do not think that Democrats will not get right behind more of this kind of undemocratic prosecution of organizers and activists. They absolutely will. None of them are saying anything about this.
Right. And I think,
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
you mentioned something about the Atlanta bail fund. I'm not aware of what happened. Can you tell us what has transpired? The Atlanta Solidarity Fund, I believe.
Yeah, well, I think it's beyond them. They passed a bill, city council, I believe, that criminalizes bail funding. So I think that
serious?
Yeah. So I think no more than 2 people at a time. I got to get back into the details of that, because I do have it jotted down. Jackie, if you want to pull up, I put up a link for tonight.
Okay.
Because I am going to be speaking with CBS about all of this, really, and in the context of the book. So I do have it written down to, get some further information about it. But tonight I'll be at Red Emma's with Dr. CBS live to discuss this incredible book. Like I noted, even with the Yeshitela case, what's happening with the Uhuru 3, and then also what Nancy Pelosi has said, the what just happened recently with the TikTok ban, like, are you from China? Are you from China? On that sort of interrogation, we're seeing, and then and beyond that, right? I think we really began to see this unfold, Russiagate, right? But we've seen that come to a head when the proxy war in Ukraine started, and people were just getting pulled and plucked from the internet that had any sort of opposing view or a view that did not align with the U.S. narrative. So this book, I think, is really critical because it speaks to that long history of it. And it also speaks to primarily the importance of what's happening with the Uhuru 3, because Russia is not a communist country.
Mm-hmm.
But that does not stop these policies or tactics of McCarthyism, right? And it's the exact same tactics. And then again, it speaks to that sort of otherism of the African, where they cannot have an opposing thought, or they can't be unloyal to the narrative of the U.S. So I think it's going to be a really good conversation. It's tonight at 7. If you can, please come out. Masks are encouraged. So if you can, please do join for the conversation, because I think it'll be a really, really good one. But yeah,
that's great. And for people who have not read Dr. CBS's book, Red Scare, Black Scare, Red Scare, please buy it, read it, because that is the time we are in right now. Right now, McCarthyism is not gone. Smearing particularly Black activists with or trying to with the smear of communism. Well, I am a communist. What do you want? So that's not over with. That's what Russiagate really was. That's exactly what Russiagate was. Like the way they smeared Paul Robeson and W.E.B. Du Bois and Dolores Hunton and all of these, Claudia Jones and all of these Black activists. The U.S. government called them all communist, and as if being a communist was, a horrible, un-American thing. But that was from this country, the accusation of being un-American because you're a communist was rich, because this country was the reason Black folks were like, well, communism is better than this shit. It's like people who are in search of liberation, of course, look for a system that is the alternative to the undemocratic, unfree system that they live in. And the idea that we don't have any more sense than to understand that there is a system other than this American so-called democracy that clearly is not, especially when it comes to us. And we have the intellectual wherewithal to look at systems around the world and historically and decide what works for us, since we don't have freedom in this society. And yes, a lot of Africans who came before us thought that freedom could only come, true equality and freedom in a system, in a state, can only come through communism. When everyone's needs are met economically through socialism, the redistribution of wealth so that nobody goes without, so that nobody has to be fighting over resource, because there's no such thing as resource scarcity. Of course, we realize that, what, communism probably is better, some form of communalism. So the accusation of, we're subversive communists who are being influenced by another country. No, we're being influenced by the desire for freedom. That's what our influence is.
And I think over the years, the sort of not normalization, but I think what we've seen with like the Bernie Sanders and the DSAs of the sort, and how anti-capitalism has sort of took hold in a particular politics of younger people, that I think people have assumed that this is not a nation of Red Scare tactics and policies. Like, you can't immigrate into this nation without, if you want to be a citizen, you have to denounce communism. You can't get citizenship. And so I think that that's really important. I mean, Stalin is still smeared across just regular pop culture. To this day, you can watch something and just randomly Joseph Stalin gets smeared. I mean, he had nothing to do with the show, but just just a random attack on Joseph Stalin. So, like,
he killed millions. He's a communist,
right?
I mean, but in America, it's worse to be called a communist than even a Nazi, right? Like, Nazis get to claim their allegiance quite freely and proudly, you know. And that's there's no issues with people claiming to be Nazis, especially now. But don't be a communist still 100 years on. And the persecution and the slandering still continues. So,
well, we see that with our leadership, right? You can call your government fascist all day and no one blinks. But if you say that Joe Biden is like leaning into or giving into communism, then you'll hear a statement the same with Trump. Right. So, yeah. Oh, was it corrected? What did they do? It's not a bill in Atlanta. It's the whole state of Georgia. So
wow. They passed this in the state legislature about bail funds? And that's probably going to get signed by Kemp. So, wow.
That's nuts. Wow. What else do y'all got?
How that work? I wonder if they.
Sorry, I didn't see
if bail funds.
You'll never see me. But we're gonna take a quick. But I gotta give a big shout out to the Zato. $50. Cheers to the baddest BPM trio. Y'all know how to run an incredible show, and whenever you're on, I know I'm gonna get get educated. Thank you immensely. All right.
Thank you so much.
Y'all hot stuff out here. Let me find out. All right.
I'm sorry. I had to drop that one in there. Freedom Power. If Christians were to follow the Bible, we would be demanding communism, since Christ was a communist with his socialist behind, giving out health care and food to thousands for free and advocating for housing for people and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. The old what do they call it? God, guns, and something or whatever. That's not the Jesus, y'all. Jesus does not have an AR-15.
I mean, you would think he was a little bougie. He's out there drinking on wine, but he was a revolutionary.
He made that wine here, doctor.
That's right.
That is true. That's about all they had back then.
Work his hand.
Yeah, you'd be better off drinking the wine than the water in some instances. Right?
You ain't lying. All right, well, let's go ahead and take another quick break, and we're gonna come back and hit you on the head. Kim getting her story together, so we can come back with that right here on the Remix Morning Show. All right. Big up to everybody tuning in right here, right now. This is the Remix Morning Show. I go by the name of the Ear Doctor, and y'all tuned into Black Power Media. All right, boom. So hit that like button, subscribe if you're new to the channel, go to patreon.com, but go ahead and drop some change right here in the chat room. We very much appreciate it, and that change will be spread. The love will be spread. The money will be spread to the hosts that you see on the screen. So please go ahead and do that. Let's do that. All right. Well, you hear in the background a little sunshine. I'm going to give some love to another artist. Actually, this is Kim's cousin right here. Yeah, let's talk about Stacy Lattisaw. Straight out of DC, y'all. Man. Now, Stacy Lattisaw, listen, she started at she got her first album or started singing at age 12. She's straight out of DC, like I said. Her first song she was given was Ring My Bell, that was done by Anita Ward. It was supposed to be about talking on the telephone, but it got passed over to Anita, Ring My Bell. And that was really her only hit. But Stacy stayed around, age 12, 1979, signed off to a record company and started working with producer Van McCoy. He couldn't do too much with her, so she started working with another producer, which allowed her to take it to the next level. We're talking about she put out 7 R&B albums and hits from 1981 to 1986. And she opened up for the Jacksons' Triumph Tour in 1981. So you know that was super big for her at that young age. And during that time, she came out with a bunch of different hits. This one right here, you hear to the back, it's called Jump to the Beat. And then she had some big ones like Love on a Two-Way Street, Miracles, some bangers, especially when she got with Johnny Gill and did Where Do We Go From Here. So if you want to know more about her, they also did an Unsung on TV One. She got like 10 albums, y'all. So big up to Stacy Lattisaw. You know what I'm saying? With that said, let's get into a little bit of Stacy right here as we get into a little quick mix for Stacy. Let's do it like this. All right. Once again, it's on right here on the Remix Morning Show. Let's get it. Let's get it. Come on.
So I've been told, but now I must cry. It's finally goodbye.
Once again, here you go. That is no other than Stacy Lattisaw. Now let's get back to the crew. You know how we do right here on the Remix Morning Show. Let's go. Boom, 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 boom. Oh, y'all know that right there.
I don't know how.
She look just like Kim, don't she?
I wish Stacy Lattisaw was my cousin. Do you know how much clout I would have had in the day?
And like, she was DC. I was like, that got to be a cousin.
No. But no, Stacy Lattisaw. If you bumped into Stacy Lattisaw in the streets around DC, I think it would be equivalent to bumping into James Funk or DJ Cool. Like, she is such a DC legend. I don't know how much she is appreciated outside of the area, but definitely within the area, people still appreciate Stacy Lattisaw. I love the DC on DC collaboration. Where do we go from here? Stacy Lattisaw and Johnny Gill, they were so young and they sung that song like two grown
perfect
people.
Combination. Perfect combination.
That's the one I know.
Mm-hmm. And how did you leave out Let Me Be Your Angel? I don't understand how you didn't mention that. What kind of
That's better.
80s. You know the song take a minute to warm up.
I was like, all right, let me get a couple in here.
90-second piano intro.
You know what I'm saying? You be like, God damn, what you gonna sing already? Yeah. So that was a quick remix on the remix of that Stacy Lattisaw. That was Love on the Two-Way Street, mixed with a little bit of J. Cole and 21 Savage.
That was good.
Well, I'm out of here.
I hate mashups as a genre, but your joints be good though, Ear Doctor.
I appreciate it. I'll be trying. All right, I'll catch y'all at the end of the show. Let's get up to 400, y'all. Let's get up to 400 so we get a mix.
Yep.
Peace.
We 368. Come on, y'all.
Wake up, everybody. Shout out to everyone that's rocking with us really across the country. We know all y'all East Coasters, everybody in New York, DC, Baltimore, Atlanta, whatever. But it's the people on the Central and the Mountain and the West and the Pacific time zones that are the real MVPs here because
because it's early where y'all at.
It is early. So shout out to all our West Siders. We love you. We see you, Cali, Oregon, Washington State. Shout out to the Vegas crew, Arizona. What's up, Midwest, Chicago, down to Texas, Little Rock, Memphis. You know, we love y'all. Thank y'all so much for getting up and rocking with your BPM crew for the Remix Morning Show. It's Women Wednesdays. Kim, Jackie, Ricky in the building. I sent Jackie a couple of stories. And these stories are actually sent to me by some of our viewers. So look up Luke Mall Nation or Ear Doctor. I sent it to Ear Doctor too because I try to cover my bases. But the first story we can I can warm it up, Chris. I'm about to.
That's what I was born to do.
Warm it up, Chris. That's what I was born to do.
Oh, I see. Is this which one?
The prison, the
prison threat.
Riverside
Okay.
County. Yeah. So
Got it.
apparently the state prisons, the penitentiaries in the state of California are still in a state of lockdown. Chat, if I'm mistaken about this, I'm here for correction. But as of a week ago, the whole state of California placed all their facilities, their correctional facilities on lockdown, men's penitentiaries, I believe, because of a riot that happened at the Ironwood facility, which is in Southern California on the border with Arizona. And it's not clear to get good reporting on what happened with this quote riot. But the mainstream outlets are reporting that as many as 200 inmates just turned on the COs, to the extent I think that 8 correctional officers were hospitalized, and I think 1 incarcerated person was hospitalized. I don't think anybody was killed. But I went on TikTok. I'm not sure is this a video, Jackie, or is this the article?
This looks like the weather right there.
Oh,
okay. Oh, because it's live.
Oh, boo. Okay. Okay. So when I looked at like what the news was saying about it, they were reporting it very vaguely. But when I went on TikTok to sort of get, I guess, a different perspective, some people who claim to have familiarity, I guess, with the inner workings of the California facilities in particular, mentioned a new policy that they were trying, the jails, that is, of mixing certain incarcerated folks who had different backgrounds. Like, for example, I think they were calling them the level 4 offenders, the people who are the sex offenders were allowed to be in the yard with, I guess, non-sex offenders. And to the extent that I'm getting this accurate, I'm not. I don't think that I am, because I'm like, I don't understand this. But apparently it has emboldened the incarcerated folks, because they are very much against this new proposed policy. They claim that the jails have tried to implement such a thing in the past and it did not work. So I think that this is an important story, though I think it's being reported very quietly. And I don't really know what it means when all of these facilities are on lockdown, and what that means for the incarcerated people there, what that means for their conditions, and any limited, if any, freedoms that they were able to have. And I don't know what that means for them right now, but be paying attention.
So just for clarity, it's the whole state of California is on lockdown, or just that the whole state?
It was the whole state. They put the alert out for the whole state.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sorry, you don't have 200 people in any context carrying out an action like that of course the state wants to call a riot, but that many people at one time? No, something else. It wasn't just, incarcerated people suddenly losing their mind. No, that was that. And I'm not so sure if it's just what you said, them. It sounds like what they're doing is like taking away administrative segregation for certain types of people, for certain types of offenses, I guess, where I think in most prisons they do keep the people who are convicted of like sexual assault, rape, child abuse separated from the rest of the population because, obvious reasons, because folks don't take too kindly to that garbage. I don't even buy that it's just that, because it's just, come on, I'm sorry, 200 people all of a sudden on the same day. It's not just one thing. That there's, I think, California prison in the U.S. in general is a horrible. It's a gulag. It's a gulag system. Just like we're always talking about the gulags in other countries. No, the U.S. is a prison house of nations. That's what the U.S. is. So whatever these people were angry about, that it took 200 of them to rise up against it. I don't think it was this one thing about, ending certain type of, administrative segregation. No, this has been, I bet you when the story really comes out, we will hear about a lot of long-term abuses, human rights abuses against people who are behind the walls.
I know the Black Myths podcast has like a 3-part series that they're doing about the myth that prisons are for profit. So they did discuss, because one of the hosts on Black Myths is from California. She has a lot of family members that have been in that system. So they were just giving a little background to like the California system and their sort of penal system and how it's kind of been replicated. Maybe not exactly in other states, but that process has been replicated in other states, especially the expansion, because California hosts an incredible amount of prisons for no reason, really, except for the extent of to build another prison. And they were also talking about the land, right? Because they say that you like prisoners are being used to work the land and things like that. But where they're building these prisons, the land, they're buying space that was already no good. Like people can't use this space anyway, so they're just going to build a prison there. And I think tonight, or Friday rather, is the final part of the series with Orasami Burton, who wrote Tip of Despair. But I would suggest people listen to that podcast or watch it back on BPM, because they really give some really good insight into just California, I think, but then prisons overall, and the conditions that exist in these spaces. Because I think it's crazy that California, why I ask, because California, one, is huge as a state, but it has, I think, as a state per capita, the most prisons per state, possibly.
Wow.
So for the entire state to lock down, because 200,
That's
because you have to think about the numbers of inmates, right? Certainly they have hundreds of thousands, if not close to 1 million inmates across the state. So for 200 to act this way and then they all lock down, that speaks to something
Larger that's obviously not going to be covered in mainstream outlets. So, as much as people are able, try to get this information out on alternative social media spaces, because I would love to understand what the reasons are that this incident happened. But it sounds like, again, from my TikTok sources, it sounds as though the CEOs are very afraid that because of this quote uprising or whatever happened, that again put 8 CEOs in the hospital. To the extent, I don't think it was a commiserate amount of incarcerated folks that were injured or even had to be hospitalized. So they are in fear. Something is going on across the state of California penitentiaries, that the people in charge are afraid. They are afraid right now.
I'm not mad about that.
Think of Andor.
Yeah, I was actually thinking that the prison breakout scene, at the end of which I cried. For if you haven't seen it, you have to. I'm not going to spoil it, but I was like, that was like the big. I'm like, yeah, go. And then at the end, I'm like, oh no, not him. But yeah,
first of all, we cannot be. It ain't no spoilers. We as grown out here. If you was an adult, talk about no spoiler for me. I need
spoilers been ruined since MySpace anyway.
Never understood
that prison breakout scene. Episode in Andor is really, really good from the beginning to the really bittersweet end. And I'm not mad that the CEOs and the prison administration in California are afraid. Good.
They should be maybe afraid stop everywhere. We should make them afraid in Mississippi. They should be afraid in Alabama. They should be afraid in the state of Maryland. They should be afraid and be afraid.
Bosses should be afraid. Prison guards should be afraid. Right. Politicians should be afraid.
Make them all afraid.
People we should just be spreading widespread fear out here to these people that are just like, we're tired of your crap. We want to be free. And you're not going to rest until we're not going to let you rest until we are.
We just supposed to live in fear? No.
No, not anymore. No.
Can I just quickly say something?
Yes.
Because this is so, I am not in the habit of speaking about things that I do not know, right? So there is this, we're not speaking about Sudan. I don't have the context to provide for folks to give an accurate depiction of exactly what's happening in Sudan. I can give folks what I think about what's happening in Sudan, but is that useful? And I think we have a flood of what people think about what's happening in Sudan, which is not useful. So no one is ignoring any particular genocide that's happening in Sudan, but I wouldn't discuss what I don't have the details of. Now, if you want to suggest someone to bring on that we can discuss, I know someone that I can ask and have that conversation with to come on. That's different. But to suggest that no one's talking about it because they're backed by Saudi Arabia is absurdity.
Stay out the chat. Stay out the chat, Ricky.
It's absurdity.
I do want
to emphasize, I think that that's a large part of the problem, is that there's a lot of people just saying things, right? Even in the situation of the Congo, it's really hard to suss out exactly what's happening, because in the midst of discuss it, there's so many discussions happening. Like, to Kim's point, how do you really figure out what's happening on the continent when it's as large as it is and there's so many varying voices? So that does call for investigation. And as a Marxist, I investigate before I speak.
Because it's about being dialectical.
Yeah, right. And I think that's really important, because that's how we have all of this: free Sudan, free the Congo, free the Uyghurs, free Tigray, and then everybody's able to just bunch everything in together because there's no context, because people are not investigating what's really happening. For what I do know is that there's a history with Sudan that's really important to study, especially because there are now two Sudans, right? We started with one, and now there's a Sudan and a South Sudan. And so I think that that's really important to get the context and the history, but also engage all of those nations that way. So I wouldn't come up here and talk about Senegal if I didn't know what I was saying, right? And I was able to give context to what's actually going on. I wouldn't do that to Sudan, because it is a very serious situation that's happening. And I think it requires investigation, and it really requires understanding that context. And if you don't, then you're just another voice. And I don't know how helpful that is.
Right. And I mean, what, in the past 4 or 5 years since 2019, when I first started working at Sputnik, I've been accused of being a Putin's puppet. I've been accused of what was it? Backing Assad, being an Assadist. I was accused of being Xi Jinping's plaything. Like, it's like, and I don't quite understand why we're literally, I think, existing in a point in time where this moment is historic because of all of the people's uprisings that are going on at one time against imperialism, neocolonialism, and capitalism all over the world. The farmers are pissed off in France. They bringing in, truckloads of manure and hay and dumping it off at in front of the Eiffel Tower and in front of the McDonald's and all this kind of stuff. There's stuff going on. There are people in the streets in Peru. There are people in the streets in Argentina. There are people in the streets in Haiti still. There's all this stuff going on. Then there are these crazy people trying to, get a convoy going down to the southern border because they're being invaded by immigrants that this country's government created because of their involvement or their meddling in other countries' business. But these people want to go down to the southern border, making themselves a little militia to stop the invasion. All of this stuff is going on at one time, and we are literally, the three of us on this panel right now, three of us And I'm not sure how people expect us to, number one, keep up with every single thing that goes on when we do this 3 days a week, and be able to give you the kind of analysis that honestly you deserve. We're not going to come on here and just talk about, oh, well, this thing happened in Argentina next. This isn't CNN.
It's not. And we're actually invested in what's happening there. Like we have so you know what I find really interesting, even to that point, one of the organizers in BAP, when October 7th was occurring, I went to the first two, but she and a few others, they held us a teach-in, like a 4-part series on what's happening in Sudan. So for me, it's like when people say that, it's like nobody really attended that series, you know, and that was before October 7th. And then since then, it's the same thing with the Congo. Every year, the Friends of the Congo has a week dedicated to the Congo in October, the third week of October every single year. And no one participated in that, not in mass, as they were talking to people about, you all are neglecting the Congo. So I think it's really an optics thing, what it looks like and what's really understood about what, you know, it's one thing to discuss and it's another thing to organize around. So I think that, you know, making those distinctions, but I do want to be clear. I responded because I think it's ridiculous to say that no one's speaking about it because of Saudi Arabia. Like of all things to say.
Listen, we got problems in here. They messing with my sisters.
No,
you know what I'm saying? They say we don't protect our sisters. I'm outside. We can figure it out.
Late. You know what I'm already checked them. Here you come. Late.
Whoa. I was allowing y'all to get your words off before, you know, and Roger Sings feels the same way, sending in $200. Thank you, sisters, and BPM for keeping us informed about what's going on out here. At least he knows what's going on. What's going on at BPM. I'm just saying, it's Remix Morning Show, baby.
Local. Roger need to take us out to dinner. Raj, what's up? You know?
Can we go to what's the name of that place? Fogo de Chao? Can we go to Fogo de Chao?
Oh, fancy, huh? I want to go. Take me to Chutney off Snowden River Parkway up there in Columbia. Let's get some.
I was gonna say the carry out by your house was.
Yes. No. Which one did y'all go to? Did y'all go to the one on?
Was it by the liquor store? Jamila would know.
Yeah, Oriental Express.
Yeah, don't worry.
Yeah. Oh no, they burned. They burned. Yeah. When I'm in the mood for some chicken wings, that's where I go. They don't play. Yeah.
The Chinese food store next to the liquor store, does that narrow it down in Southeast?
Yes.
I feel like there's several intersections in Southeast there where the Chinese food is next to the liquor store.
Yes, the Chinese in a little strip mall with a liquor store, and that's a very, very busy liquor store on the weekend.
It is very busy.
Huh?
It is very busy.
It is, and I could never figure out why they were always so busy. And I asked somebody one day as I was coming out, and I stopped going there because they don't have the wine I like anyway. So I'm like, why do so many people come here? And they're like, oh, because it's basically the cheapest place across the Maryland line, because DC and Maryland's basically divided by Naylor Road and Southern Avenue. So I'm like, I don't find those prices cheaper at all. I don't know what y'all be looking at, but it's a pain in the ass getting in and out of that parking lot to, get some wings on a Friday or Saturday night. But it's worth it because they're good.
They ain't got no good black restaurants in DC or Maryland or Baltimore.
They do, but convenience. Are they walkable? Can I get there?
Yeah. I mean, in DC,
remember when Marion Barry went off about the Asian food store? Marion Barry.
Why did you have to bring?
Sorry. Because I love Marbury. Marbury would sometimes teeter on the ridiculosity. I'm like, sir, can somebody come get Pop, please?
Y'all gonna leave my man for life alone.
and the Asians and the filthy Chinese. Jesus, Mary Bird, please.
It was like,
enough.
Mr. Mayor, please stop doing press conferences right after you smoked. Stop. It's like, what is wrong with your staff? How are they letting you get high and then get in front of the cameras?
Speaking of DC, did you guys see that Donald Trump has refocused his ire on the nation's capital because of his, what was he, former staffer of his that got killed by a person who was experiencing a mental health crisis, not even necessarily somebody that was on a crime spree. This person was in severe mental distress and ended up killing 2 people, in addition to the former Trump staffer. And now Trump is, I don't like it when the Republicans talk this way. He wants to reverse it and has proposed reversing home rule for DC. Which I think could be completely possible if Trump were to regain the White House and the Republicans were to retake control, have the majority in Congress.
Can I ask, what's the distinction between the crime bill that was just passed and what Trump is wanting to do in terms of DC? Because that was what Dems, right? That pushed that.
Yes.
Council.
Yep. Well, Trump wants to eliminate home rule for DC, which doesn't have anything to do. Home rule was like this weird compromise between the white folks in Congress and DC, basically, because the DC statehood has been a hundreds of years long battle, and yeah. So what Trump wants to do is to put DC back into a conservatorship under Congress, under someone in Congress, which means that we would no longer get to vote for our own mayor or city council. Because remember, in DC, we couldn't, 1975 was the first time we were allowed to vote for our own political representatives because we didn't have home rule before. We were under conservatives. So Trump wants to do that. The crime bill that was just passed in DC, that's just going to lock a whole bunch of niggas up. That's all. That's just going to increase that. That's just the Democrats. Mayor Bowser in particular, in her, what is this? I think this is her last year.
What's this Pinto chick? Like I don't dig her. She be proposing. No, look at her positioning, trying to be the first white mayor. Like, I'm gonna bring law and order to DC. Me single-handedly. Follow me, Mayor Whitey.
Yep. Here's this woman who represents Ward 4, which is a largely business district. So when she talks about her constituents are concerned about crime, it's not residents, it's business owners. And that was fine with Muriel Bowser too, because she sold DC to the developers and you know, the gentrifiers.
But, I mean, she helped, right? She
exactly.
And Fenty, Tony Williams, like all of them, run them down. All of them did it.
I just read, because I watched Top Chef too, but I just read that Kwame, he used to be a contestant on Top Chef. He's a Black chef. There's a lady who just opened an $18 million hotel or something in DC, a Black woman. And so it's a big news. It's big Black excellence, Black history news that Kwame, who was on Top Chef, will now be working for Black business in DC. And I think Goddess Crew was saying it's all the grass wall restaurants have ruined it for us all. But it's true though, because like, I don't know what that aesthetic is about, but it's everywhere. But it's also like they have taken over DC completely. And that's with true. Like all of the Black owned or locally owned restaurants are like turning into these like bougie adjacent. Yeah, I don't like, they're like for Instagram purposes, all these restaurants.
Yeah, the grass wall is funny because if you it's funny, but it's very true. If you drive up 14th Street, 16th Street, go up through Adams Morgan, you know, go drive up H Street. This is all you see, all these restaurants with the little tables and chairs outside with the, the concrete barriers, the Jersey walls, narrowing the street so that people can sit outside. And they all have these ridiculous fake grass wall or leaf wall kind of decoration on. Oh, it's just so tacky looking, but that it's all over DC.
No, DC looked better with the record promotion posters on every light pole, and like I don't like the way it's. I'm like, what is this? I don't even recognize this place. Even some of the places, that we, used to frequent quite often. Like, still, I don't like going down to U Street because it makes me sad. Like, it literally makes me.
Yeah.
It hurts my heart to see all these white folks. Oh, what are y'all doing here? Like, it's very disappointing.
Yeah. My family used to own the Islander restaurant, so now I don't even. Yeah, it's closed now. I think COVID, but yeah.
Oh, before we go, real quick. What happened? That's not the window I wanted.
We all in your business too.
I know.
Ooh, what was that?
What was that?
Bring that back up again.
That is not. There it is. That's what I wanted. Okay. Woo. Be talking about people. No, I'm just kidding.
Where do we go from here?
It won't let me show. It won't let me share this liberation through reading. Rats.
Well, if you want to, you can put the link if possible. But yeah, I am going out of the country in my my program, Liberation Through Reading, that gives Black African children books that are Black African centered. I'm taking it with me. So there's a drive going on right now where you can order books in Spanish. So there's Amazing Grace in translated, Why Do Mosquitoes Buzz in People's Ears, The Bluest Eye, Kindred. So those books are in Spanish that I'll be taking with me. Today would really be the last day you can do it because I'm leaving this weekend. But if you can't do it and want to still support but don't want to support Amazon, you can send a donation straight to Liberation Through Reading. I can post the links.
You, a while back, you had posted a list on Amazon of Black centered reading list for smaller kids, like 6 to 9, and I bought every book off of that list for my nephews. And now the boys are telling me we need some big boy books. So if you have a list for like 9 to 12-year-olds or like 9 to 13-year-olds?
Yeah, there's different lists for when I do different drives and things like that, but yeah, I can get that up. And you said boys.
Yeah,
the boys,
I buy them girl stuff. I buy them tons of stories about women, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But no, that's one of the reasons why I started it, because most of the Black centered books are like, especially for little boys, are Daddy took me to the barbershop. So that's really a book too. But and I remember that, I had a variety of books when I grew up. And so wanted to emphasize that there are a variety of different books, especially in the sci-fi fantasy genre for boys.
Yes. I think that.
I was wondering, do boys that age read? At that age we start playing a lot of video games and stuff like that. How old
that's true.
I mean, people be trying. Y'all people in the chat room be trying to pile on a rabbit. Y'all need to cut that out. You know what I'm saying? As soon as somebody say something, it's pile on a rabbit. Let the brother finish what he got to say. Anyway, since we jumping in the chat room. Yo, we did it again, ladies. Another Wednesday, another Remix Morning Show. And
we make it over 400?
Sure didn't. So, rules is rules. Since we didn't make it, no mix.
Look at these hating ass remixers. Y'all niggas be hating. They tune in. They say, "Oh, I don't see Jared or Kamal. Guess we gotta go."
That untrue. Listen, y'all bringing in all the loot. People coming in loving this, saying this is their favorite day of the week now. So appreciate that. You know what I'm saying? We out here getting it. With that said, the Remix Morning Show, y'all. We will be back tomorrow at 8 a.m. So make sure y'all tune in as we rock out for you and yours right here on the Remix Morning Show. And we out. Peoples. Peace.
Peace.
Yeah. And let's take it out on this note.
Take it.